Imagine for a second a single person so rich that their generosity could actually break the economy of an entire region for more than a decade. And no, this isn't some kind of fairy tale. This is the true story of a 14th century African king whose wealth was, well, almost impossible to even measure.
So, let me ask you a question. When you think of the wealthiest people who have ever lived, who pops into your head? You probably think of today's tech billionaires, maybe some of the old oil tycoons, right? Well, the real answer is probably not who you think.
The richest person in all of human history was this man, Mansa Musa. He was the 10th Mansa, which means emperor, of the incredible and powerful West African Mali Empire. And his story, let me tell you, is all about mind-boggling wealth and an influence that has lasted for centuries.
Mansa Musa ruled from 1312 to 1337, and this was a time when the Mali Empire was a real powerhouse. It had risen from the ashes of the older Ghana Empire to become one of the biggest and wealthiest empires in African history. So the big question is, how did they get so rich?
Well, it all came down to two things: gold and salt. The Mali Empire was sitting on top of enormous gold deposits, and it controlled these absolutely critical trade routes across the Sahara Desert. This meant Mansa Musa basically had a lock on two of the most precious commodities of the era, and that control was the engine behind his almost unimaginable fortune.
Now, what's really fascinating is how the rest of the world even found out about all this wealth. See, Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim, and in 1324 he decided to undertake the Hajj, the sacred pilgrimage to Mecca. But this was not going to be just any old journey. It would become one of the most legendary events of the entire medieval world.
Just try to get your head around the sheer scale of this. We're talking about a caravan with thousands upon thousands of people, servants, soldiers, you name it, and with them hundreds of camels. And get this, each camel was loaded down with pure gold. This wasn't a pilgrimage, it was a literal moving city of gold stretching out across the desert.
As he made this epic journey, Mansa Musa wasn't just showing off his wealth. He was giving it away. In every city he passed through, especially in a major hub like Cairo, he was incredibly generous. But this act of kindness had a shocking and totally unintended consequence.
And here's the crucial part. His generosity was on such an insane scale that he single-handedly destabilized entire economies. He flooded the market with so much gold that the value of gold itself just plummeted. It took some places, like Egypt, more than a decade to fully recover from his visit.
So, what do we actually mean by inflation here? Well, think of it like this. By pumping all this new gold into the system, gold suddenly wasn't so rare anymore. That made it less valuable. And when the value of money drops, the prices for everything else, food, goods, services, they all skyrocket. He literally gave away so much money that it made money worth less.
The economic chaos eventually settled down, but the impact on Mali's reputation, that was permanent. For the very first time, people all across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East started hearing these incredible stories of a ridiculously wealthy empire in West Africa. The Hajj was basically the ultimate press release for Mali's power.
But the story doesn't end there. The journey wasn't just about spending gold. When Mansa Musa returned home, he brought something back with him that was way more valuable, a brand new vision for what his empire could be.
He didn't just come back with stories. He came back with the leading minds of the Islamic world. We're talking scholars, poets, architects, the best of the best. He used his incredible wealth to attract all this talent and kickstart the transformation of the Mali Empire into this buzzing center of culture and learning. And the crown jewel of this whole project was the city of Timbuktu. Under his leadership, it became home to the famous Sankore Madrasah, which was basically a university. And look at what they were studying. It wasn't just religion and law, but advanced sciences like astronomy, mathematics, even medicine. Timbuktu became one of the great intellectual capitals of the world at that time.
So, you see, when we look back at his story, it's about so much more than just a guy with a lot of money. His real, lasting legacy was about how he used that unbelievable wealth to build up his kingdom.
And this image, well, it says it all. After his Hajj, map makers in Europe started putting the Mali Empire on their maps, and they'd often draw Mansa Musa himself sitting on a throne holding this huge golden orb. He had completely changed how the world saw West Africa.
In the end, his rule is remembered as the Golden Age of Mali. He took a fortune in gold and turned it into something much more valuable: mosques, libraries, and universities.
He converted financial wealth into a cultural and intellectual legacy that's still remembered today, long after all the gold was spent.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big thought. The story of Mansa Musa really makes you ask, what's the true purpose of great wealth? Is it just about having a lot of stuff? Or is it about using it to create something that lasts, something that outlives you? What does it truly mean to build a legacy that echoes through the centuries?